Hi Chris, how are you?
Good morning, Rod. Yes, I am well on this lovely day. Sorry, my heater was on in my shed, so I've just turned it off so there's no background recording. But yeah, here we are on Sunday the 9th of Feb, and it's episode 159.
It is. Already we're into February. 2025 is marching along.
Yeah, I think it's crazy, isn't it? We were just reminiscing before the top of the show of there's not a lot of tech going on at the moment. I think we've had the Switch announcement, which was not really an announcement, but just a very quiet animated video. And there's not really been much else that's techie. Obviously, everything else is going on in the world, which I think has taken over.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. There's lots of news from America and actually some from the UK about managing your data, managing your life, and taking over. That's sort of taking over the podcast as well as all the tech news, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, hopefully that stuff will calm down and we start getting some cool tech. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Cool tech would be nice. I'd like the world to calm down a little bit as well, please.
Agreed. Oh, it will, he says. Quote me on that in about 3 months' time, I guess.
No, it's global warming. That doesn't happen. It doesn't exist anymore, so it's fine. It's going to warm up.
No, let's not go into it. Let's go into follow-up. Let's go do follow-up.
All right, let's go to follow-up, and we'll immediately go to quite a grim story then. We talked about this when it was sort of in the offing a couple of years back. The UK passed a law called the RIPA Act, Regulatory Investigatory Powers Act. I almost mangled that. It's not bad going for first thing on a Sunday. Where companies could have demands placed upon them by the UK government for backdoors, effectively. We want into-your two-factor encryption. We want ways to access criminals. We want to look for child sexual abuse material. We want to look for all that kind of stuff whenever we choose to do so. And here's the kicker. The company wouldn't be allowed to say if this had happened. It arrived this week that apparently the UK government has demanded that Apple break its encryption to allow government, not just of UK citizens, but of worldwide citizens. And this feels like a staggering overreach to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, on one hand, you can go, okay, I can understand why a security authority would want to go look at data because, there could be a malicious plot going on or, whatever it may be. But then if there's a backdoor for government, there's a backdoor for anybody. And that is the problem, isn't it? Is this, if you create one backdoor, and even if it's going to be used in the right way, for the right reasons, with court orders or whatever it may be, it's all been approved, somebody else could misuse it. Or the government could misuse it because, let's face it, nobody's squeaky clean, are they?
Well, there's no bad actors in any governments, isn't there? And we don't need to look much further than Elon and what he's doing with the Department of Government Efficiency in the United States to see that. And you would only take one slightly miffed MP or member of the security services or some contractor that they'd pulled in on minimum wage, as we talked about in this podcast before, to for things to go horribly wrong. And just from the Ars Technica article that we've linked to here, the British government's undisclosed order issued last month requires blanket capability to fully view encrypted material, not merely assistance in cracking specific account. So this is carte blanche. They want access to Apple's encrypted stuff. I can't see Apple just rolling over on this.
Well, mate, I don't know how they will, because obviously the thing they've sold us all on is that even they can't look at our data and see our data, and they've moved loads of things over to be this way encrypted. And it's the same, I think, with iMessage. I think it was last year, forgive me if I can't remember, but there was a point update where iMessage moved and it became sync in iCloud and it all became fully encrypted. So this would be a massive reversal of a lot of what they've done, and equally their position of we can't even see your data. It'd be huge.
Yeah, and there was that case where even the FBI couldn't induce Apple to unlock the was it a shooter's phone, I think, after a massacre in America, as there are so many of. Gun laws are good, folks, by the way. After that, the Apple refused to counter that, and in this case, I can't see them doing the same thing to the UK government.
No, agreed, but what does that mean, though?
Well, it says in the article here, Apple is likely to stop offering encrypted storage in the UK. I mean, that would be a massive reversion in what we're used to.
But surely, if Apple were being asked to do this, surely it's every phone maker's got to do this.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know what maybe Google just roll over and hand the stuff over anyway. I don't know. But again, on most Android phones, you'd be free to install something like F-Droid, as the operating system, which is kind of Android open source, and install whatever encrypted software you wanted on your phone. And even if Apple did this, I don't think Signal would do this. I don't think WhatsApp two-factor would do this. There's more repercussions here than I think that the UK government would really need to think about. This is another sort of addition to the load of all the things that is going on in Europe, is going on in the UK, that's going to make big big American tech companies think twice about doing business in this part of the world. Now, they can change it, and you and I are both very positive about Europe having made positive changes on Apple.
Agreed.
We're going to talk in the main show about Apple's report card, and I think the European Union do the right thing. But this is very bad and very wrong on the part of the UK government, I think. And I'm with you. I agree you want to catch bad guys, but this isn't the way to go about it.
No, I'd agree on that. Yeah. Should we move on?
Let's move on to something just as depressing. We've talked a couple of times in this podcast about the changes in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We call it something different in the UK, but it's more or less the same acronym, but swapped around a little bit. Another big tech company is just falling in with, not having DEI goals at their forefront when they're doing recruitment.
We're just going backwards, aren't we? I don't get it. I thought we'd got to a good place as a world, and obviously we're backtracking quicker than it took to get the laws in place and the policies in place.
Yeah, and I'm sure I saw another story this week about how they're going to start going after private companies as well, which is obviously why Google and Co are starting to get in line with this. Governmental agencies they can control. We've seen that with NASA and others. But Google, Meta, Apple seem to be resistant to it at the moment. But how long will that last if they start suing people? It's just grim all round.
Yep.
All right, that's enough grim all round. Let's talk about large language models instead. And I thought this was fascinating. We talked a lot about DeepSeek last week, which is a vaguely open source model. The training material is not open source, but the actual model itself can be downloaded and used locally. I have done so. I have unplugged my internet cable while it's running. It doesn't phone home. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. But you can run these things open source. And anyway, after DeepSeek released this, OpenAI released a research model where for your $200 a month that you were getting from them, you could get it to sort of store research and do research on your behalf, commission it, and it would go off and do things in the background, pulling articles, pulling all the bits and pieces you'd want to do. Anyway, some very clever hackers at Hugging Face cloned the OpenAI research algorithm within 24 hours for not a lot of money and released that too. So further proving you don't need your $200 a month towards OpenAI.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a bit of a war on OpenAI at the moment. Of people catching up with them quickly. Obviously, using a lot of OpenAI's foundations, but do you see what I mean? That there's a lot of people utilising what they've got and then doing a bit more with it, largely very quickly and for not a lot of money. And so it does feel like OpenAI have got some work to do in this space.
I think it's great, and there was a good discussion on ATP last week about how disruptive a lot of this stuff is, that it feels like the early days of the computer industry again. Back when it was interesting and edgy, you didn't know whether Windows was the way to go or Linux or Macs, or, people were releasing new things all the time. Processors seemed to be getting faster, graphics cards were coming along, and then you got a period of stability, and then all the chairs get moved around again. And this feels like this in this area at the moment, is that there isn't stability. I'm quite glad that there are sort of pushy upstarts coming along, and OpenAI thought they had stolen the march on this with their deals with Microsoft and obviously the deals with Apple to be embedded slightly within the iPhone. I think this is great that this has come along.
I completely agree. I think, OpenAI I think had the lead, but you need competition to keep your competitive edge, don't you? So it's good they've got some people snapping at their heels, but who knows what OpenAI have got ready to launch next, because they do seem to launch stuff at a staggering pace. So no, I think it's good, and it's certainly healthy. You don't want any one dominant player, do you?
You don't, and you want it to be a level playing field, and I want this stuff to be as open as it can possibly be, so hackers like this can poke around with it and make it better, see what's going on, give you the value adds without having to pay large amounts of money on it. The commoditization of this stuff and the lower power requirements for DeepSeek have got to be a good thing for the planet.
Lower power is definitely what we need. Hopefully AI has had its peak of power consumption, and it'd be nice to see us go the other way with it and start getting the efficiency gains in.
Yeah. In not surprising news for Apple, if I can get the story to show up, apparently China is now considering an antitrust investigation into Apple. So we've seen this around the world. We've seen it with the EU. We've seen it in Korea. We've seen the beginnings of it in the UK with the Competitions and Markets Authority. And unsurprisingly, China are now starting to think about this too.
Wow. Yeah, I guess with Trump and the trade war, and obviously it makes mention of it in the title, this is likely because of the trade war currently ongoing, and they want it as leverage. It's not a big shock, is it? There's going to be a lot more of this. I think we're going to all get distracted this year with trade wars, more lawsuits than we had last year probably, because they've got to fight back, I guess, a little bit and try and, I guess, have a bit of ammo in their cannon to try and combat Trump on whatever policies he's putting in against China.
Yeah, and so many American companies are dependent on China for the production. And I know that's one of Trump's tentpoles as he wants to move all that stuff back to the US. And you see that with Taiwanese and Chinese companies opening up factories in the United States to produce that kind of stuff. Foxconn being an example of that. So it is interesting. At the same time, China is a very deep part of Apple's strategy. They still make most of the devices there. We've seen them attempting to diversify. This probably hurts them more than most. At the same time, we know that China has a very different relationship with Google and with Apple. In that country, the iCloud servers are open within China. Apple's already bent over for the Chinese government from that point of view, unlike the UK government. So it's quite interesting when you think of the potential repercussions of something like this on a company like Apple.
Yeah, agreed. Apple's got a tricky political game to walk, haven't they, this year?
Very much do. So it will be interesting, and I think maybe we're going to need some new sections on the podcast. I know Upgrade have Lawyer Up when they talk about all this kind of stuff, and I've added a new section this week, actually. We talked just for the occasional thing. I'll need to get you to do some more show art for that, album art for that.
Yeah, I haven't made any show art for years, have I? So maybe I need to do a bit more, have a refresh.
Time you did. We could have some animated stuff for the video as well, just a thought.
Okay. I've never done that, but maybe now's the time to learn new skills.
Now is the time when you learn new skills. I can't think why that would have sprung to your mind right now. Something that sprung to my mind, and I tried to invite you on it actually, is Apple released a new app this week. Woo!
Oh, you did send me a link, and I haven't looked at it, have I? That's probably I was probably on my iPad at the time.
You haven't done your homework, Chris.
I haven't done my homework. So Apple has brought out a new app. It's called Invites. It's an app that you can create an event, I guess, and invite people to it and manage their acceptance and who's coming, and you can upload photos to it once the event's happened. You probably have pre-photos in there. Then whilst the event's happening, you can upload your photos. You can have a playlist, and people can listen to it if they're signed into Apple Music. So it looks quite a cool app. It's quite a nice interface. Looks very polished, but it's not on any other device other than the iPhone, which I get. That the iPhone's the big one and everybody's got it, but Apple are releasing a lot of apps in recent times that are only on the iPhone, which I think is bizarre. That they're not, doing it at least on the iPad, which is pretty much the same. And they've got all this cross-platform stuff, but just seem to be doing iPhone only. Obviously, they think there's a market for this app, but typical with Apple, though, they bring out a new app. Are they going to give it the love it needs? A year from now, is there still going to be an app? Because we had it with Journal, didn't we? That came. They didn't really do a lot with it. And it's still here, but nobody's talking about it because I think if you're going to dive into some of these things, are you worried that Apple is going to just go away or just become a nothing app in 6 months, 12 months' time?
What, like clips?
Clips, yeah. Voice memos was it voice memos or music memos? I can't think what it was called, but
it was for editing little videos like Vines or something like that, or YouTube Shorts. It was for that style of thing. So I've tried this app. You haven't. It's odd. It's really odd. It is only designed for in-person meetings. It's not. There's no like FaceTime or anything baked into it at all. You look surprised, Chris.
Well, I was just thinking. Yeah, I am a bit surprised. I was just trying to digest what you've said. It's like, well, that seems a bit odd, doesn't it? I know we're in a post-pandemic world, but equally hybrid is the way. Surely you were going to do it for both, but maybe this is more a social meetup app rather than a physical, a meeting app, which is what you use Calendar for, I guess.
It is, and it lacks a lot of the things that as a business user, there's all sorts of things for these I use. Immediately my mind's gone blank for them, but like Invitely type things where you click on a thing and you say whether you're available for meetings or not, and the service emails you back. They're all pretty the same when you get down to it, and this isn't that. This is just, I'm holding an event at 9 o'clock, come and join, put some pictures in, put some music on, and like you say, you can add photographs to it as you go through. It's probably quite good for kids' birthday parties, assuming all those kids have an iPhone, but it feels like a very bubble. It's interesting you use the word bubble type app. That I think this is going to get a little bit of activity. We're going to talk about it this week. We might talk about it once if it gets some sort of vaguely interesting update in 6 months' time, but we'll never speak of it again.
That is probably sadly the truth, isn't it? And unless Apple is going to change a corner, but I think this is the problem. A lot of the apps Apple makes would be better if they were a one-person band, because you're more likely to get updates and some attention, because Apple's notoriously bad at just updating their apps and keeping them relevant for their own OSs. So I think that is the problem with this. You'd like to think, well, the big conglomerate will keep it updated and maintain it, but sadly that is not the case.
No, it's fire and forget with a lot of this stuff. It's really weird.
Yeah, they sort of pull it out there and then just, like you say, forget about it. And it just seems bizarre to me. They just don't have people maintaining the apps. And I think this often with a lot of the ones bundled in the OS. Why don't they unbundle them from the OS and just let people update them? You know, obviously have a plan, but update them more regularly, like you would with a one-person maintained app, and you get monthly updates on it. Say, I think that would do Apple better than what they're currently doing with it. And I know they've got to test it and it's got to hit quality standards, but there's got to be a better balance than what they currently have.
And that's interesting, isn't it? That sort of dichotomy between, do you keep the apps on the device part of the operating system, which was very much the move for a long time. You can't have update to iTunes as was without the operating system being updated, versus Eclipse, Journal, this kind of thing type app. Apple Music Classical being another example of something that doesn't get updated a lot. Neither of them get updated a lot, be they on the operating system or be them released as standalone apps. And I think it's a real problem for Apple that they've obviously had their attention completely focused on Apple Intelligence, for good or for bad. But even that doesn't move forward very quickly. The standalone apps don't move forward very quickly. When's the last time Terminal got updated inside of your Mac? I don't know. 4 years ago when they switched to Z Shell, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? I think. And like Apple Music on the Mac, now I've started using my Mac a little bit more. I'm frustrated, I think, by Apple Music. It was just iTunes from 10 years ago. It hasn't really, not really moved forward. And obviously Apple know where their user base is, and it is going to be the iPhone first, but I don't know. It's just a little frustrating. We better move on, otherwise we're never going to get to the next link, are we?
Yeah. Moving on a little bit and just harking back to what we were talking about before, DeepSeek, if you use the web-based version of it or the iOS/Android-based version of it, sends unencrypted data to ByteDance-controlled servers. I'm not surprised.
It's in a shock to nobody. Somebody I work with did go, I installed the DeepSeek thing just to have a go on it. Should I uninstall it? He was like, yes, get rid of that. We don't need that.
I think it's fine in the sense that just don't put highly personal stuff in. I wouldn't put highly personal stuff into ChatGPT's version of this or Copilot either. I don't think you should trust these apps with what's going on with your data when the big fat pipe at the back of them is going back to the parent company. It's different if you could run them alone on your computer by yourself, as I talked about before. But none of these things you should be putting your corporate data into, your personal data into.
I completely agree, and that is our guidance for anybody out there. If you're going to use it in a work capacity, use the enterprise version of Microsoft Bing, so it keeps it, in your silo, as it were. But if you're playing with it, even just for personal, don't put anything personal in there. Just use it for generic copy.
Yep. They're going to share their data with their government in the same way that, stuff that goes into Meta, X, Grok, whatever it's called these days, is going to end up back with people you probably don't have access to it. So it's a hard world out there, folks. Be careful.
Agreed. That is the warning, isn't it? Just think twice before you paste all your personal data into something.
Absolutely. Should we do some news?
Let's do some news.
Right, and sticking with the grim theme, and this one probably wouldn't affect anyone who isn't in the United States on the first way of thinking about it, but to me as a university-type person, this is horrifying. So the National Institute of Health in America is the funding agency for lots of health-based research at United States University. The chances are, if you've gone through an American university doing a biomedical degree, anything involving chemistry and medicine, lots of the science subjects, somewhere in that university there has been a grant from the National Institutes of Health. Now, again, unless you know a lot about university financing, this is going to be a bit odd, but often when you receive a grant as a university, you get what's called full economic costs for getting that grant. So that is not just to pay for the researcher that's doing the work, but also money towards the university to keep the lights on, pay for computing, do all the ancillary stuff that comes along with it. The National Institutes of Health used to pay a 60% full economic cost effectively to United States universities to maintain, the research activity at those universities beyond just the program that they're paying for. And they've cut that to 15%. 15%.
Wow, that's a huge drop. And is that like one of these silly things that's immediately going to take effect and nobody's got time to plan and deal with it?
Yep, absolutely that. So there'll be lots of people on existing grants that are going to go, what the hell? So this is going to have a massive impact on United States research. Now, even us in the UK have benefited from things like this. So there are open source software programs that have come out of National Institute of Health. There are metrics and patient questionnaires and vaccine research and cancer research that have come as a consequence of this. The United States is a leader in medical research. This will kill that.
What? Why are we going backwards again?
I can't answer this. Just because somewhere in Trump's brain or somebody on Trump's team thinks this is a cost-saving efficiency, why should we be spending all this pointless money to United States University? They'll survive in the corporate world. This isn't the way funding works in academia.
No, I don't get why everything's got to regress at the moment. It's driving me slightly potty, if I'm being honest.
And the
it's not
really
good, is
odd
it?
thing, no, it's really not good. And there are sort of changes in this. So, like, if a charity funds a university, you don't tend to pay that full economic cost because they're a charity. They can't afford it, and you would expect them to. They're still funding research and the researcher, and that's why schemes like this make up that difference in full economic costs. So this will have impact beyond just the immediate academic sector. It will impact the charity sector. It will impact any money into sort of anything charitable in the United States as well. And the knock-on effects to countries outside of the United States are large for all the reasons I've talked about. We work with some United States universities and some United States agencies. I wonder if we still will in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that is the thing. Is that like you say, worldwide, is that going to start falling away as the belts are tightened and priorities are changed?
Well, yeah, but what's the ultimate effect of this? In 10 years' time, will countries who are able to continue to fund this kind of stuff, China, be absolutely benefiting and then be the world leaders in this kind of research?
Yeah, 100%. We're going to regress, and then you can see it now in, I don't know, 2 or 3 administrations' time. They're going to turn around and go, oh no, we need to invest more. We're falling behind, and we need to do it at home in our own country and not relying on others, like they're doing now with trade and manufacturing. You can just see it going the other way for academia.
It's just crazy, isn't it? Anyway, that's enough depressing stuff. Let's talk about something else that's depressing. This is a fascinating story that I just spotted this morning, just as we're about to go to show. Apparently, United Kingdom gambling firms have been sharing their data with Facebook, well, with Meta to be more specific. So there's a story in The Guardian that they were passing on that information directly to Meta, and then Meta were bombarding these customers with yet more gambling ads.
That's not right. I thought in the UK that we had gotten to a good place with this kind of thing. Like payday loans gone away, gambling. Companies have to do a lot more around making sure you can't sign up for an app and bet immediately, and and there's a lot more warning in apps and a lot more helplines and all of that. And then they do this, which seems to be the polar opposite of, oh look, we're just going to give all your details to an advertising agency so they can bait you to do more gambling when we're over here ticking the box that we're required to do by law to make sure that you're in control of your gambling.
Yeah, it's just gross and disgusting. And this is the kind of thing Meta got in trouble with years ago with Cambridge Analytica, sharing all that data back with them. That was the reason I left Meta and Facebook at that point. And I'm really glad I'm out of that ecosystem, frankly.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like either Meta or the gambling companies are living the life that they're meant to be living and telling it, and what they've said openly that they're doing. It does feel like this is a massive thing. That it's just it's so frustrating though, isn't it? Because this isn't right. Not one part of this is right. How has this been allowed to happen?
No. Of 150 websites tested by the Observer, 52 shared data automatically via the Meta Pixel tracking tool. Automatically. Including Hollywood Bet, Sporting Index, BWin, Lottoland, 10Bet, and Bet442. I don't do any online gambling. I don't.
I will confess, occasionally I will put a $5 on a car race, a horse, a football match, but it's maybe 6 times a year at most, and it's usually, like I say, £5-10. So I do it, but I haven't heard of any of those companies. I don't know. It's not a world I know a lot about.
In a single browsing session, they were shown gambling ads from 49 brands, not just websites that share the data that unlawfully too, but others too. This included betting companies that were unaware of the unlawful data sharing, and those who own Metapixel was within the rules. Among them, Ladbrokes, Skybet, BetVictor, Tombola, Bet365, and smaller brands. I've heard of some of them.
Yep. And like they say there, though, some of those, their adverts might get shown because they're paying Meta some money to show their ads, but they wouldn't know how Meta's got to the decision of showing their ad. And I guess that is the tricky thing. You're including this article because of the association.
Yeah, it's just loathsome again. And well done, Meta, for absolutely being part of the best of humanity.
for continuing continuing the culture, the ethos that you've had for the last 20 years. You're just carrying on.
And just to put a tin lid on it,
a tin lid.
Sticking with Meta, apparently to train their own AIs, they just went out and torrented authors' works from corporate laptops and corporate devices. So there's terabytes of data have been pulled down from authors like Stephen King and George R.R. Martin and others to train Meta's AI. They're just told to get on and do it. And again, it just makes you want to vomit, frankly.
Surely they could go buy these things properly and do it lawfully.
Surely they could go and actually talk to the authors and their publishing companies and say, can we buy the rights to use this manuscript to train our AI, and actually fund the people whose life's work they're stealing?
That's bonkers, isn't it? Like, again, how does this edict come down from the top and then get implemented? And and I guess nobody questions it, and they just get on and do it.
Well, they just got on and did it, and that's what they did. And I'm just flabbergasted that this is now acceptable in the world to openly steal, this kind of information. Like I say, authors don't make a lot of money. It takes a lot to become a George R.R. Martin or a Stephen King. There's far many more struggling people who will never get that sort of living that they've been able to make out of this. And then somebody just comes along and torrents your book and, actually trains their AI, which they will make quite a lot of money off, probably to serve you gambling ads. But,
100%. They're going to be doing this for capitalist reasons, aren't they? They're not doing this for the benefit of humankind. So it's wrong, isn't it? And like you say, they should be able to license this in the right way, not the wrong way. That's the frustrating thing. And it's not that they haven't got lots of money that they could do that.
Yeah, we're back to that just do it and seek permission after thing, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think the current president is very much setting the trend there in the culture.
Yeah, I saw a sticker today. If you put a clown in charge, expect the circus, which I quite liked.
Yeah, that is pretty good actually. I like that.
Do you want to tell us about a rather expensive grip for your iPhone?
Yeah, so I saw this come up, and I like photography. I do quite a lot of photography. I'm a big subscriber to the Glass app, which is one where you pay a relatively small amount of money per year and you upload your photos and you get likes and appreciations. And I saw this come up because I do take lots of photos on my iPhone. I love my iPhone for that because it's always on me. And so what's happened here is Leica, who are a very expensive camera maker and very good, very high quality, really care about photography, have made a grip for your iPhone. So this attaches via MagSafe. It's a black grip, and it's got a nice chunky handle on it, and it's got some buttons on it so you can take photos. And you don't need to hold your phone, and with two hands, I guess you can just hold the grip and line it up and get a steady shot. And I think this looks really cool. And I'm super interested in it because what I really like the look of this is this just connects via MagSafe. So it's not phone specific. It's MagSafe specific, which has obviously been on the iPhone since the iPhone 12. And here we are on the iPhone 16 at the moment. And it will probably be on the next round, the 17 safe phones. So I think that's really good. Big tick for me. But this is a grip that attaches via MagSafe that costs $329. I don't understand how they've got to there. It's available on Leica's website and through some specialist retailers. Like I say, I think this looks ace, and it's got a button on it that you can lightly press, like a proper shutter button on the grip. I think this looks really, really cool, but how is it so expensive? That's the bit that's throwing me, because I really fancy one of these, because I do love my phone, and this would be an easy thing, take in your bag, even when you're at work, just chuck it in the bag, and maybe you'll, like in between meetings in London, I often take my phone out, take some photos. This would be fantastic for that, but I just don't understand how they've got it to be so expensive.
Well, Leica stuff is expensive, right?
It is exceptionally expensive. I mean, it is really high quality generally. Even the second-hand cameras that are 10 years old still hold, high pricing if you go and look on the camera trading websites. I'm just gutted it's so expensive, like I say, because I kind of want to work out how I can get one of these. But it's probably one of these things that won't be on Amazon and it won't be discounted. And that's my only concern there. But it also there's an app as well you can get with it. But you have to buy a subscription if you want to use all the features, which is $70 a year as well. So it seems like this is a cool idea, but could get ridiculously expensive ongoing, which I don't agree with. But I like that they've done it. Maybe somebody else will do something similar that's a bit more obtainable. I think even if it was $199, I'd probably go for it. That's probably my ceiling here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've just found a UK website that sort of deals in Leica cameras, and the Q3, whatever that is £5,500.
That's the camera. That is the one.
That's their best camera, is it?
It's not the no. That's their semi-affordable camera.
Oh my gosh.
They sell bodies at 10 grand. That camera is the one I was lusting after when it came out. But even if you want the Q2, it's 3.5 grand and second hand. So you can see how expensive they are, but they make very beautiful devices that have got amazing sensors and take real high quality photos. So that camera is absolutely beautiful.
And do they do video as well, or is it just photography?
I don't know. I assume they do video. I'm not a big video. I've never really looked into it for video purposes. I don't really shoot any video.
Okay. While you were talking there, I was looking through, and you can get a Xiaomi 13T, which actually has Leica lenses on it, apparently, for £549. So for not much more than the grip, you could have a whole phone with a Leica lens.
Yeah, that would be super interesting to me. I think way more than the grip is actually, can I just get better lenses on my everyday carry phone?
It would be interesting to look at the reviews of that phone, which is obviously a Chinese made Android phone, but to actually co-engineer with Leica, whatever that means. And I'm sure I've seen, is it OnePlus or Oppo have Hasselblad lenses in their phones?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm amazed Apple have never done anything like that. But I guess Apple think they're doing good enough on their own, and then the Apple phone is very good at taking photos. Generally, they've really come a long way. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if Apple ever did anything like that, but I can't see it now.
No. I'm going to leave the next story for you as well, because you're the Teams advocate here. Apparently, Microsoft Teams has added a Facebook-like feed and follow button. I don't even know how that would work.
Oh, I've not seen that. I do use Teams a lot, but I guess a lot of how I use Teams is just more one-to-one chats rather than joining a team, if that makes sense. Yeah, we were talking about this just this week in the office. They keep releasing updates to Teams that need to relaunch Teams, but seemingly bring no new functionality. But maybe this is it, and none of us have noticed it. So I'm not surprised Teams are doing this, because at work it is your go-to place. So it's not a shock they're doing it. But the app is frustrating even on Windows, because I think it's updated so often and it doesn't seem to do much and isn't the most stable of apps, which is frustrating because it's Microsoft app running on their ecosystem. You would have thought that would be the best experience.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd one, isn't it? That I don't think I want a follow button inside of my corporate apps. All I want to use, when I have to use Teams, which I thoroughly resent, but when I do, all I want it to be is a video client. I want to talk to the person I'm talking to, a little bit of chat, maybe share a link or two, and then go away and go to my next meeting, hopefully in Zoom. So I just think it's crazy.
But I can see it though, like I say, corporations like where I work, we live on Teams. Like that's how we do all of our chat with individuals. That's how we create all our meetings. That's how we do all our PSTN phone calls. So I can see why they're doing it.
But what's next? Does it integrate with LinkedIn so you can look at that hose of garbage that comes off LinkedIn as well?
I'm amazed they haven't done that already. Especially if you have an external call, why wouldn't you dive out somebody's LinkedIn profile if you want to just see who you're on the phone to?
Oh my God. I mean, honestly, I think LinkedIn is a terrible thing. You quickly descend into absolute corporate doublespeak nonsense almost instantly.
I guess it depends who you follow. The only thing I really do like LinkedIn for, like I say, you want a meeting with somebody and they've announced who they are and what their job is. You can go look them up, see what their history is, see how long they've been in that role. I enjoy it for that piece. I find that quite interesting, but I don't disagree with you on some of the other social content that gets posted there.
Okay, I'm going to reserve judgment. One thing I'm not going to reserve judgment on is that the iPhone apps have been found on the App Store with malware that can read your screenshot and other key data. This is what the App Store is meant to protect us against, isn't it?
Well, this is the whole reason you send your app for app review. It gets approved so that when you install an app as a user, it's going to be tip-top. It's not going to have any nastiness in it. And Apple have been known to throw apps out for really stupid reasons, but yet they're allowing apps with malware through, which doesn't seem right to me.
No, so the way this works is it's using OCR, which iPhones are really good at these days, and so are Android phones, to scan users' photo libraries in search of recovery phrases for crypto wallets. So don't store your screenshots of your crypto wallets in your photo library. And
don't download random apps that want to have full access to your photo library. I mean, that is one thing they've improved, haven't they, is that when you want to allow photos to be accessed by a third-party app, you can pick the photos that it uses, so you're not showing your entire library of photos and it's just out random going through it and scanning it for critical data.
But I think this is a very bad look for a company that says this is why you've got the walled garden. We don't have the walled garden on the Macs. We can download what we like. We've always been prone to this kind of stuff. You need to just, as we said at the top of the show, be careful out there. But giving you the false reassurance, potentially in some cases, that the App Store is going to offend you, and then allowing it in. And, anybody who didn't know a lot about GPT apps might download any GPT and think this was a perfectly legitimate app.
Yeah, because people just hear the letters GPT and think of OpenAI, don't they?
And because their search is so bad on the App Store, maybe that's the thing that bubbled to the top. Maybe they paid Apple lots of money to have any GPT right at the top of the App Store, and now they've done quite well with somebody's crypto wallet.
You could definitely see that happening, couldn't you?
Not great. Another thing that might not be great, but I'm not sure yet. Well, Sonos certainly hasn't been great the last couple of years with their well-publicized problem with their app. But apparently, they're in the process of looking at developing a streaming box, and this boggles my mind as to why Sonos would be doing this.
No, do you know what? As soon as I saw this, I thought, actually, that makes 100% sense to me. I'm not obviously in the Sonos ecosystem. I think you are a little bit. Obviously, though, we've reported that the app's been awful that they've released, and they've had lots of problems with it, and it's slow. They've had now got new management. But you know what, though? If you're selling somebody, a speaker system, with subwoofers, soundbars, rear speakers, whatever it may be, why wouldn't you sell them this app and this box? It's another upsell, isn't it? And it's just got all the apps on it, like you get on your TV. So I'm not surprised they're doing this. It just feels a little late to the market, because how many people these days have got TVs that've got all of this built in, and they don't want an Apple TV style box? I think we are probably in the minority of users that've got Apple TVs, which I use all the time for all our TV consumption, and I love it. And I don't use the TV at all, but most people won't want to spend more money on another box. And so I think they're a bit late to the market, but as soon as it came up, like I said, I can see it, because it's just a bit more of the home TV theatre experience that they can own.
Yeah, I don't know how many people go and buy extra boxes. Most TVs have it built in these days. Most TVs actually watch what you're watching a lot of the time as well, which is one of the reasons I like my Apple TV Plus. I don't think Apple TV Plus, they're naming so bad, Apple TV.
Agreed.
I think it's the best box in the market. I think you pay a lot for the best box in the market. It's fast. I can swap around between services very quickly. I don't think it's very inventive, though. It hasn't changed much in the last few years. Any sort of additions to it have been very minor. I mean, they're boasting things like, is it Insight? Is that what it's called on Apple TV Plus when you pause it and you get Facebook's equivalent lookup of what the actor is or what the song is?
Yeah, I think you mean Amazon's like X-ray thing. It's Apple's equivalent, but I've never used it.
I think I've used it once just to see what it did. And it works exactly as you expect it to. But then I think Plex does that for me, or Jellyfin does that for me if I install the right plugins on my open source apps anyway. So it's not revolutionary. Where's all the stuff? I mean, Apple, Steve Jobs said in the posthumous autobiography that he'd cracked television, and it's not cracked.
Yeah, that was an odd statement, because I don't think we've ever seen that come to fruition. I do like the Apple TV box, but you're right, it just moves glacially. It's just a box for streaming media, basically, but it could be way better.
For example, ITV, BBC, whatever the American equivalents are, CBS, ABC. Why is there no live TV lookup of what's going on? Where's the program guide for right now when you turn it on?
That's my biggest frustration. I'm amazed they haven't put that into the TV app. Like, why can't I just go, what's on now? I've got all the I've got all the apps for my country. Can I just have 6 o'clock? Here's what's live.
Fair enough. So do that, Sonos, and maybe we'll have a look at your box then. But given their background in apps, obviously they make really good audio equipment. I have lots of the speakers kicking around this house. I'm very pleased with that. Their headphones are well received, if a bit expensive. So they could put a good one together at a reasonable price. Maybe it's got a chance. I just think they've missed the boat.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they have. I think they're too late to market with this, and now's not the time for them to release more software when they need to deal with their issues.
And last but not least, Apple made Luxo. I can't think of any other way to describe this.
So what am I looking at here?
So this was a research project by Apple's robotics division, who have made a robot lamp. So this is a genuine thing from Apple. And as you can see, it is a functional robot lamp that looks like Luxo. It was called Luxo. At the start of the Pixar credits that bounces in and sort of illuminates something. If you watch the video that I've linked to on YouTube, you can see how it moves a bit more naturally. It doesn't have the sort of jerky things that a robot normally would. And it seems to me we had all those reports about a HomePod with a screen from Mark Gurman. that was going to be the next big thing this year. Obviously, this is probably what he was getting reports of, this functional robot that can do this kind of stuff, not specifically a HomePod with a screen.
Yeah, it looks quite interesting. Makes you wonder, what's Apple doing with this? Like, where's this going to be a useful thing? I find it very bizarre that Apple have a robotics division, but super interesting to see where they're going to go with it. Also, how has this video got out?
I presume they've published it.
Yeah, okay. It just seems odd to me because, I don't know, it's not very Apple-like to see something like this on YouTube.
No, I agree. Anyway, there it is. If you wanted Apple to make a very clever lamp-type deal, they have. Should we talk about cars briefly?
Yeah, cars. I like cars.
So let's do Car Corner, just as a very quick thing that I'm going to get you to make out some album art on. So in Car Corner, I just thought that this was fascinating to kick this off. Norway this year has apparently neared 100% of all electric cars. Almost every car sold in Norway this year has been electric.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Norway have the infrastructure. If you follow any of the sort of main EV reviewers on YouTube or anything anywhere like that, they're almost always Norwegian. Bjorn and Chris Riffa, who both do this for a living, they just storm up and down Norway's motorways. They charge fast and they get on and they do it again, and there's fast chargers everywhere. And I think, well done, Norway. You have one of the biggest sort of oil and gas industries in the world, but at the same time, you've got on and you've electrified your roads, and it seems to be going quite well.
Yeah, it's impressive. They got to, like, say, late 90s percentage of numbers for new cars purchased. Obviously, they're going to have lots of old cars that will, I guess, over time diminish, and they will get to a position where the whole country's 100% electric, not just new, but in 20 years from now maybe. But amazing, they've got to that position already. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good to see. And then, as a consequence, it's been fascinating to watch the downturn of Tesla cars at the same time. So there's been reports in Ars Technica this week about Tesla sales absolutely tanking, and I quite like the picture on this Ars Technica article about the Norwegian Tesla that's in the harbour. But Tesla's turned toxic as sales crash in Europe. So Tesla sales have dropped 13% across Europe in 2024. But the scale of the problem is far greater. New sales of Tesla in France fell by 63%, which is incredible.
Is this because other companies are catching up, or because of sentiment in the room around their CEO, or something else?
All of the above.
I don't think it could be a smorgasbord, to be fair, of various events.
Good Norwegian word there as well for this article. I approve.
Good. Everybody likes the word. I think smorgasbord is an underused word. I love it.
It is a good word. Asimco, who's a commentator on sort of personal mobility and all the rest of it on Mastodon, has got a year-on-year sort of change in sales across Europe for Teslas compared to 24-25. Germany down 60%, UK down 19%. I see a lot of Teslas in the UK, but that's interesting. Even in the UK, they've dropped.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that for us in the UK.
Yeah, but I think the Model Y is out there, and we talked about this last week with leasing, is what people are buying them on. They're not buying Teslas, they're buying a lease, and Tesla happens to be the most tax-efficient way.
And they're massive on company car schemes and what have you. That a lot of them will be through that.
Yeah, but as you look across this, almost every country is down by double digits. In fact, every country is down by double digits. Spain's interesting, down by 75%.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's another marker. A lot of Elon's personal finance is tied into Tesla. This could be quite impactful for him in the long run.
Yeah. So the net result though is that we're down 50% in Europe for Teslas between Jan 25 and Jan 24. Super interesting.
Yeah. Super interesting. And isn't it nice that we're included in a chart of Europe again? Yay!
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We are in Europe. We're just not in the European Union, are we?
Geographically, we're in Europe. Emotionally, unfortunately, not. Another just very quick story. We reported before about a potential merger between Honda and Nissan. Apparently, it's falling apart.
I can't even imagine that deal, how they're brokering it, how they're going to come together and agree it, because you've got Renault that own, I think, about a third of Nissan. You've got Honda and Nissan then coming together. There's just a lot of big companies involved to try and get that deal agreed. I don't know, it's just one that feels like it might just go on forever.
I don't think it's going to go on forever. I think Nissan are going to walk away.
Well, that'll be it. Either it will go on and on and on, or they'll just walk away and they won't do it.
And we said this at the time, bringing together Japanese cultures, company cultures, is really difficult to begin with, but as soon as it turns a bit more toxic like this, I think the writing's probably on the wall for it, which is a shame. I think both companies have some amazing cars, good historical, progress of what they've done in the car industry, and this in particular with electrification, Honda with their racing divisions and all the rest of it. There's a lot of history there. It would be a shame to see it all go, but both companies going under.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think there's got to be a world where both can carry on in the right way. But
it's just tricky in the car industry at the moment, isn't it? China is eating everybody's lunch when it comes to these kinds of things. I mean, my car is Geely, it's Volvo, but it's Geely. It's a Chinese car, really.
Yeah, I guess you're right. The Chinese manufacturers have I'm trying to think of the right word, founded themselves and got the leapfrog on the incumbents, and I think that's the big problem.
They're doing to Japanese manufacturers what the Japanese manufacturers did to the British manufacturers in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I think. They've taken the playbook.
They have. I thought it was Korea going to do it because, let's face it, Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis are amazingly good brands, but I think ultimately it's going to be China.
Yeah, it does feel like they're going to be the winners here.
And last but not least in cars, we had a story 2 years ago, I think, about BT potentially using their unused old cabinets into EV charge points. Well, they're not going to do that.
BT just seem to randomly do things and then not do things. I think they're not a company that often see things through, are they?
They're not the greatest. I think that's it for Car Corner, unless something you want to throw in there, Chris?
No, I don't think so, sadly. Yeah, I haven't got much to report on Car Corner. My BMW's still trickling along all right, but I will be getting rid of it in a few months, so I need to think, am I going to replace it or just live with my other car? So it's going to be interesting times.
It will be, but it will be an occasional segment. We're not going to make a routine thing of Car Corner. There's not always enough stories.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough to cover it every week, do we?
No, but it's nice to have its own section. Shall we do some media?
Yeah, I like a bit of media.
I watched Conclave after your recommendation. See, I do pay attention.
You're just dropping me in it because I haven't done any of my homework.
I don't know what to tell you. Actually, that needs to be in follow-up a bit more frequently. The homework I've given you quite often get away with it. Like the plastic recyclability of your 3D printer. You didn't follow up on that. But anyway.
I was just going to say
anyway, no. I watched Conclave. Pretty good. Very high ratings from critics, 93%. Slightly less good from watchers of TV, 86%. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great performance by all round. It's quite compelling. I could see the twist coming. Not the exact reason for the twist, but I knew there was going to be a twist from that particular character. It was like flashing lights on it right from the outset.
Yeah, sometimes I think things are signposted too much in films, which is a bit frustrating. I think I said before, I read the book and I quite enjoyed the book. It was a long time ago and I want to reread the book now I've seen the film again. But what really got me with the film, and I don't know if you spotted it, but there were just lots of scenes and little filler clips of just stuff happening to prepare for Conclave and background, and I just think they did an amazing job of setting the scene and you know, like when they're all having their one of their meals, it's just very plain, very simple. I just thought it was really well done, and they had people sat by country and things, and I don't know, just thought, obviously I have no idea what Conclave's really like, but I just thought it was fantastic, and I just liked the whole place setting and the scene. I just thought it was really well done, and I thought the performances were great, good, varied cast, and you don't often see a film like this, so I just enjoyed it.
No, I'm with you. I enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable 2 hours. Not the greatest film in the world, but you know, just a thoroughly enjoyable way to pass 2 hours.
Yeah, agreed. I quite like a drama though. I think I probably watch more drama films than I do action films now, whereas 20 years ago it'd been the inverse.
So to mix it up, I did watch an action film as well. It's been on my list for a long time. I've been meaning to get round to Bullet Train, which is a Brad Pitt action vehicle, I think, in the way that a Tom Cruise action vehicle would be a thing in Mission Impossible. You don't see Brad Pitt do a lot of stuff like this. He does tend to sort of mix it up a little. If you've ever seen Ad Astra, you'll know he does the odd drama as well. That was a hard watch. This was mindless fun. The critics didn't like it. They gave it 53%. The audience liked it more at 76%. It's got a decent cast. It's got some good set pieces. It is absolute fluff, though.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but sometimes you just want a film though that you haven't got to think about, or you just put on and you can just power through it, kind of thing, and it's not a thinking film. And this does look like that, and I do like Brad Pitt as an actor. I think he's done some great films. So yeah, this is one I probably need to get to as well. For some reason, I didn't see it either.
No, like I say, I enjoyed it. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is in it. He's very good, and Brian Tyree Henry doing a British accent, also very good. And also Andrew Koji. Where is the actual chap? I need to find him. Hiroyuki Sanada, who is in Shogun. absolutely terrific actor, and whenever he pops up in something, he's magnetizing and worth watching. He's in John Wick 4 as well, I think. The man can act, and he can do his martial arts too.
Okay. I don't know half these people, I must confess. You're always way better at cast than I am, I think.
Surely you've heard of Aaron Taylor Johnson, though.
No, I don't think so.
Have you not seen Kick-Ass?
Yes.
So he was Kick-Ass.
Okay. I'm normally
Craven the
better
Hunt.
at characters than this. I do recognise the name Sandra Bullock, though. That jumps out. And Brad Pitt.
Dude, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just getting old, I think.
I'm going to move along very quickly. Severance Season 2 continues. The 4th episode came out on Friday. Quite a thing. You might see some stuff on YouTube or on the internet in general about how they sort of move the plot along quite a lot in the same way. It's interesting. John Gruber said it was like watching Empire Strikes Back when he was like 12 or something like that. He had the same feeling about this being monumental, that it was going to change his life. I didn't quite get that with it, but really quite a special thing, Severance, and I can't believe you haven't got on with it.
No, I haven't watched any of Season 2. I think I kind of want to go back and rewatch Season 1 because I've forgotten stuff that's happened. And I think if I watch I kind of want to... Do I watch a catch-up of Season 1 or do I rewatch Season 1 to get fully engaged with it? That's kind of where I've ended up, and I've ended up just doing neither. So I've just ended up in limbo, I think.
Moving on. Did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, I'm aware of it. I've never seen it.
Okay. It's a great show. It was unfortunately might be the wrong word. Joss Whedon, who was the leader of it, was eventually found out to be on the wrong side of the Me Too movement for very good reasons. I think there were problems with the cast and the way he was treating the cast, the female members of the cast, and that was wrong. However, separating the art from the artist, as you often have to do. Buffy was transformative television. They did things like they had a song and dance episode, first TV show to do that. Quite empowering for women, despite everything I've just talked about. I think it was quite landmark in lots of ways. And it was one of those shows, along with Star Trek: The Next Generation, that I'd rush home from school to watch, actually, because Sky were showing it. And they're not rebooting it. They're going to continue it. They're going to start another one with primarily female showrunners. I think there's a chance to be something decent, so I'm quite excited about this.
When did Buffy finish? I can't remember. Do you know? It feels like a late 90s kind of thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it continued in comic form until 2018, but I think it was a late 90s kind of thing.
So it ended in 2003. I was just reading the article. But okay, so I missed all of it. But like I say, it was a thing that was on, and obviously aware of it because it was huge when it was popular. So I think it's good, and it sounds like Michelle Gellar is going to be a producer of it as well. So that'll be good. Hopefully they can do a modern version, but maybe pay homage to its roots.
I hope so. And bringing those people back, in executive producer roles and presumably to stand on it, we'll see how we go. Games,
let's do it. I've not played any games, so over to you.
Oh God, thanks for that. I have played some games. I have also noticed our first story, which is the PlayStation Network was down for over 24 hours, which is massively impactful to lots of people.
Caused me no problems, I must confess.
Well, your kids, I thought they'd have been on Fortnite or Roblox or whatever it is they play.
Yeah, Harry did say to me last night that it was down. He couldn't get onto Fortnite, so he played FIFA. But there wasn't lots of shout. We were out a lot of yesterday, so maybe we missed it.
It was on the BBC. It was on most of the websites. It was down for a long period of time. Lots of Call of Duty fans very upset about the fact there was a double points weekend and special things going on. They couldn't get on there. It was a big deal. Now, you and I both remember the Christmas, or the PlayStation 3 Christmas, where it went down for like a month because of a hack.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? It's not good for PlayStation because they're already not doing a great job, are they, with games on the PS5, making PlayStation Plus worth buying. So it doesn't feel, it's not a great look for them.
It's really not a great look for them. So it's back up as of now, but unfortunately you've missed quite a lot of the weekend at this point.
Well, thankfully it did not impact my life because my kids would have been annoyed, I think, if they wanted to play against their mates.
They'd have been very upset. Moving on, I actually managed to play some games this week. So I've done a lot this week, to be fair to myself. Humankind is something I bought when it came out ages ago. This was Sega's attempt to do a Civilization. I tried it very briefly and went away. I've come back to it. I still don't entirely get it. I don't know why I'm thinking of Civilization-style games at the moment. Just I wanted to check out some competition for some reason. I'll let you elaborate on that in a bit. But yeah, it's not bad. It was very different to Civ though. So I'm still sort of messing around with it, trying to get a feel for it. I think it's relatively cheap on Steam at the moment. If you well, it's not actually. It's $39.99 as I look at the page here, but it's on sale quite a lot, and you can get it cheap if you want to try it out. Works on Mac too. Worth a look if you fancy something a bit different from the usual Civilization style game.
Yeah, I'm amazed it's not on some crazy sale because like now is surely the time to go and grab an audience. But yeah, obviously it's not.
I mean, what is interesting about it is if you look at the reviews on Steam, it's mixed. And if we look at, we're going to talk about Civilization 7, it's also mixed at the moment. I think what gamers don't like is change.
Yeah, potentially. And I guess you got a mix of people playing, excuse the pun, because you're going to have people that have played the old versions and don't want too much change, but then you're going to have newcomers to the franchise that probably have no preconceptions.
Yeah. Moving on, while I was waiting for some huge downloads to happen on the computer, I downloaded Door Kickers. Door Kickers is like if you think of Grand Theft Auto the way it used to be, in looking down at the characters, a top view of the characters, it's like a tactical planning game where you play a SWAT team and you've got to take out bad guys that are hidden in houses, and you've got very precise ways of controlling them. You can pause them and throw flashbangs and do all this kind of stuff. It's quite an interesting little game. It's not very expensive, £15. It's been replaced by Door Kickers 2, which I don't have, which is why I went back to look at Door Kickers. It's quite good fun, I've got to say. It's sort of a tactical, you might like it because of your Commandos way of thinking, frankly. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed a little bit of Door Kickers this week.
I quite like the art style as well. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, I think you'd like Door Kickers 2 more, and there's a bundle of 3 of their games together. But I think it's worth checking out if you like that sort of more tactical way of approaching these things. It's not like an XCOM. It's more real-time than that. You can just pause the play, plan if you're going to throw a flashbang in a corner or use a breaching charge in a door or whatever it is. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think it's quite a nice take. It's great to see.
Yeah. But Door Kickers 2, if you're thinking about getting it, is better. I'm going to shush now, and you can tell us about Civilization 7.
Yeah. So Civ 7 is out now if you've pre-ordered it of the very expensive tiers. I think starting at $89.99 here in the UK, and so you get early access for 1 week, and then it's out to the general population on the 11th, which is why only a couple of days away. But as you've said, the reviews are quite mixed. The article you've linked to, I did read through this, and the person reviewing it is likening it to, is it as good as Civ 4 or Civ 5, or, is it better than Civ 6? So, excuse me, exceptionally mixed reviews, I think, on what you're expecting from it. Now, I personally have pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered the cheap edition. It's still $59.99 in the UK, so £60. Because for me, I didn't really see a huge amount in the other ones. Even though you get it a week early, I can wait a couple of extra days. So I have pre-ordered it, even though the reviews are mixed. But I want a new game to play. I'm really looking forward to it. And I thought I'd play it on my Mac. So I went and downloaded the Steam client. And the icon for Steam on the Mac is round. So the icons for a short period on the Mac were all rounds, which kind of echoed to me, maybe Steam aren't updating their Mac client. And then when I went to run it wanted Rosetta. So they haven't even recompiled for Apple Silicon. So I've not installed on my Mac, and I'm probably going to put it on my gaming PC.
Well, that's not fair to Valve, frankly, because Apple have made it very hard to make games for the Mac, as we've talked about before. And it's down to the developer, not Valve.
But no, I expected the client not to need Rosetta, just the client that obviously shows you your library of games and what have you. But
we've talked about this in the podcast that even on Linux, for example, moving away from 16-bit binaries, 32-bit binaries, there's all sorts of issues with that. So I'm not surprised it still needs Rosetta at this point, because the games almost certainly will, because there'll be some codec or video driver or library or something that requires it. So you may as well get it over with.
Yeah, I probably will, I guess. But I want to download it and I want to play it, and I'd love to use my Mac Mini for doing a bit more than just browsing the web. So maybe you're right. Maybe I just need to bite the bullet.
I think you bite the bullet and you install Rosetta. Your Mac can take it. It's quite powerful. You're not doing anything wrong by installing Rosetta on your Mac. It's designed by Apple.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know why. I just didn't want to install random stuff. But yeah, maybe I just need to part that. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it, even though it's got mixed reviews. But I have not really played Civ since about Civ 3. I've had a dabble in Civ 6, or I think, at some point, but not really got into it. So I am looking forward to this game. I can't wait to get into it.
Well, we'll see. I have also finally pre-purchased it as well, and I'll checking it out on the 11th, so we can talk about that next week. One last thing before we leave Civ. It's also getting a Quest VR version, so it's obviously not that demanding on a system, so your Mac should be fine running it even in Rosetta.
Yeah, well, I've got like 48 gig of RAM in this thing. I've got the Pro chip in it, so I'm hoping that is good enough. And it'll be interesting to see what gaming's like on the Mac. But they do seem to be putting this version of Civ on everything, so it's definitely not a platform native thing. It's gonna be interesting to see what that actually looks like in reality, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to run on the Steam Deck as well.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, good luck with that. It's going to be a bit small.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I've gone for it on Steam because I want to play it with a keyboard and a mouse.
Which again, with the Steam Deck, you can plug in a keyboard and a mouse and plug it into your big screen, and you can play it like that if you want. That's one of the joys of the Steam Deck.
Yeah, which is what I used to do. I just wanted to. I found the Steam Deck a little slow, and I usually played it dock. Hence why I've gone for the gaming PC or the Mac now.
Right, shall we do a main show?
Let's do it.
Right, we're going to very briefly try and go over Jason Snell's 6 Colours report card. So Jason Snell does this every year. He's been doing it for 10 years now. He talks about it very well on his own podcast on Upgrade, and obviously through his fantastic writing on 6 Colours. So I just wanted us to take a little pass through what happened, and the process of that is he invites Mac pundits and people he knows to give commentary on various aspects of the Mac ecosystem, talk about the iPhone, talk about developer relations, talk about wearables, and grade them, and give a little bit of text. It turns into quite a lot of text often, and I've linked for us below Gruber's actual complete reviews of all the bits and pieces as well, how he reviews things. And that's the way it works. We don't get invited. We're obviously not important enough Mac pundits to do that yet, Chris. We need to sort that out next year.
Yeah, quite. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Be an honour.
You know you've made it then, haven't you? So, okay, so just a very quick look through this. It's broken into these sections: Mac, iPhone, iPad, wearables, watch, Vision Pro, home, Apple TV, services, hardware reliability, Apple OS quality, Apple app quality, developer relations, and world impact. I don't think we need to go into these in any great sort of depth. There's things that are up and there's things that are down, and that might be as good a place to start with any of this.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's a good idea because it's so broad, isn't it? What Apple's world.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on a couple of these things and other things he could have broken out a little bit more. Like, does Vision Pro deserve its own section? Does Apple Intelligence deserve its own section? You know,
or for me, should they break the OSs out into? You've got the hardware broken out. Should you break the OSs out as well?
I don't know. I mean, we could have an argument about whether iPhone and iPad is actually different at all, because I don't think it is.
I don't think they are, to be honest with you. I'm the iPad guy. I think,
so why break it out? Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look through these, and we'll do it by section. The Mac is unchanged, and they rate these from 0 to 5, so you can have a change of 0.4, 0.3, year on year. Mac is unchanged. I disagree with this. I think the Mac hardware is slightly better than it was. It's more reliable. We're well past the point of the broken butterfly keyboards and things like that. I think the Mac is a good lineup. I don't particularly miss the Apple Studio and the Mac Pro, which are the sort of outstanding things that have into the M4 upgrade. I think the Mac is up on last year for me.
Yeah, so this is it changed from 23 to 24? I guess I'd possibly agree with that, but I think what you'll see is once they've finished the lineup with the updated Air, the updated Studio, maybe the updated Mac Pro, then that will go up marginally. But I think it's in such a good place and has been for a couple of years now, ever since Apple Silicon and all the industrial design revisions they've done. They did release the Mac Mini last year, so I'm surprised that's not just pushed it up just ever such a fraction, because we've both got one. That machine was universally reviewed, and the fact that you've got 16 gig of RAM as a minimum, sure, yeah, I'd have expected the Mac to be up just marginally, even though it was really high anyway.
Yep, it is on a high. I mean, it's 4.2 overall. Its average grade is an A-, so I think it's doing well. The Mac, I've got no issues with it. Fine, a little bit higher for you and me, but I can live with it. The iPhone is down 0.4. Yeah, get it. Not enough change, and they brought in a stupid button.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Nothing in the iPhone this year convinced you or I to buy one. A friend of mine bought a 16 recently. He went from a 13 to a 16, and he's pretty unimpressed because he was like, "Actually, I haven't got much in here, have I?" And I was like, "Sadly, not." No,
it's just very meh, and it deserves a drop. iPad is up quite a lot. It's up 1.1, and I know they released some new iPads. Chris is very happy about that. I don't really get it. I don't understand because I'm not in the right mindset for the iPad. But if you're an iPad person and it's doing what you want it to do for you, that M4 sweetness is all for you.
Yeah, iPad Pro is a fantastic piece of kit. It's too expensive, but it's fantastic. The Air is way better and is the one most people should buy. So I think they've done a lot for the iPad hardware last year. I love it. It's a brilliant piece of kit.
I'll let you have it, but I don't get it. Wearables up 0.1. I guess that's just on headphones.
They did bring out their new watch, didn't they? That's a lot thinner and lighter. So maybe that. Headphones as well. Probably not the AirPods Maxes. But it wasn't a big year, though, because they didn't bring out new AirPods Pro this year. But they did bring out software for them.
Just to be clear, watch is the next category, so I don't think watch is included in this.
Sorry, I assumed watches was under wearables. I should have looked ahead. Maybe that 0.1's for the Vision Pro. Maybe there's one person out there that liked the Vision Pro.
I think everybody likes the Vision Pro. They don't like the lack of the software and the developer story on the Vision Pro. I think the Vision Pro is universally received as good but too expensive hardware. So I don't think that, if anything, that would be a negative. But for me, I think this is the standard AirPods with noise cancellation is really the only sort of standout product.
AirPods 4.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So I get the improvement, but everything else within that, the
AirPods
Pro are the same, you know? Watch up, that'll be because of your thinness and lightness. Again, why haven't they brought that to the Ultra? Why haven't they brought that to other models within the range? There's Gruber as a whole piece in his take on this, that they brought in 1 hertz display refreshes on the Apple Watch line, but it hasn't made it all the way through the Apple Watch line. There's only certain models it's on, and he sees that as a negative, actually.
Yeah, they need to get more consistent, don't they? And they didn't apply it to all the watch faces, and just, I don't know. Again, the Apple Watch is a bit like Apple's apps on the iPhone. They release these new faces and they don't update them for 2 years when the new models come out or the new hardware and stuff, and it is a little frustrating.
It is. So I think, to me, I think watch is down rather than up because again, it wasn't compelling enough for me to rush out and buy one. I know it's about me, but these are about me. These developers do rate it based on their experience, not as they want other people to see. So for me, the watch would be down.
Yeah, it didn't make me go and buy one. I went and bought a Garmin to track my running.
There you go. It's down for you. Home, down by 0.1. So not a lot of change, but I get it. They've done nothing really with Home over the last year.
I thought I'd be down way further than that because nothing's happened.
Yeah. Apple TV up. Now, I don't know if that's Apple TV including Apple TV Plus, because services is its own category. But if we're talking about Apple TV, the service, I agree with this. I think there's been some great shows and they've continued to do them. Apple TV, the hardware, has done nothing for me, as we were already talking about, though. So for me, this would be like the Mac. At best, a no change. At worst, a very slight change. Down.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there's been a couple of things in tvOS, but on the whole, Apple TV as a platform did not really, the tvOS 18 version did not really move it forwards. So I'm surprised that is marginally up. Again, I think that'd be down because Apple haven't shown any investment in it.
Services up. Don't get why. Again, if Apple TV is in this, maybe. Or if you're a fitness user, I think there's probably something in there for you. But Apple News isn't particularly good. Apple Music has been problematic. We talked about the whole Christmas roll-up thing being an issue once again this year. I don't think they're really pushing ahead. I think all they're doing is they're charging you for 5 gigs of iCloud storage and just taking people's money, frankly. And I know it's a huge growth industry for the area for the company, but I don't really feel I get a huge value for money for all the services that I'm investing in for that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I use a lot of Apple services. I've stopped really using News now, but TV Plus is still very good. I like all the iCloud stuff, the storage, the note syncing. That just kind of works, but it's not an improvement year on year. It's just stayed stagnant. And Apple Music, really, I don't think we got any good features last year on Apple Music, sadly, because I am a big Apple Music fan on the whole.
Yeah. Hardware reliability stays the same at 0.0. Yep. No comment. Everything just works.
I think their hardware is in a fantastic place. I think it scored really well. So I'm just flicking up to see what the score was. So hardware reliability scored better than anything in the whole thing, and I think that is fair. So I'm not surprised it hasn't moved because it's so good and has been good year on year ever since Apple Silicon.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Developer relations down 0.6. This doesn't surprise me. And again, I'm surprised it's not further down. We see the continuing rot between Apple and its developers, and the Vision Pro release highlights that for me. There aren't apps because developers don't feel excited to go and buy it. Consumers aren't there either because they priced it too high. But fundamentally, that widening gap, and it's not about the 30% tax or the 15% tax, whatever it is. It's everything. It's documenting APIs. It's building apps to not know if they're going to be released. It's the company's fickle attitude to you've got to complain to the media to get anything out there. And it feels gross all around that these are the people that help build Apple. You buy an iPhone for the apps as much as for the device itself. And if you're annoying these people, they're going to go elsewhere. And you just need to hear Marco Arment's comments every week in, week out, about his disillusionment with the company. Yeah. That it just shows what's going on.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they don't appear to be doing a huge amount for developers, sadly, and they should, because there's some great developers there, some great apps. But I don't know, Apple don't seem that bought into driving it forwards in a meaningful way.
No. And last but not least is World Impact, which is down the most of everything in this area, about 0.7. And I think we would absolutely concur with that. With everything we said in this podcast over the last year, there's been far more negative stories about Apple and its impact on the world, from developer point of view, from its interaction with governments, for its giving money towards inauguration campaigns, to its environmental impact and its greenwashing that we've struggled with. Yeah,
they've had some positives with sustainability, but it seems to be moving very slowly. Like the Mac Mini is their first sustainable Mac, or carbon neutral Mac, should I say. And they did a bit with watches and cases the previous year, but not really much got mentioned this year, which is frustrating, I think.
No, and the cases were a bit of a damp squib, weren't they? They had to withdraw them all.
Yeah, that is the problem. And I think I expected more, that continuation, but it just doesn't seem to be moving at the pace I expected.
It feels very like lip service at this point. You know, they're one of the biggest companies in the world with a massive environmental footprint. And yes, they do things with solar panels and all the rest of it. But not enough. Should always do more. Should highlight it that they are continuing. Where was the replacement for that bad case? Where is the, forcing all of our suppliers to do X, Y, and Z? But that's just one aspect of this. All the stuff we've talked about, interactions with the EU, the way that they go on, and the working with China and the United Kingdom government, and all that kind of stuff is part of World Impact. And I think overwhelmingly it's been negative.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement. I think, yeah, frustratingly they haven't moved forward as they should have done, in line with their what they believe are their morals and their compass.
Yeah, and I think we've said it a few times, they're not a sports team, they're a capitalist agency that's out to make money from you, and they do it extremely well. The engine works, we give them the money more often than not, and you and I have both bought new Macs this year, and I don't regret it. I think it's a great computer, but there's definitely that area in the back of my head that's going, really, is this a company I want to keep funding in this way with all these approaches to things? It does concern me. We're so in on it at this point, it's difficult to out. The walled garden is a difficult thing to climb over the top of. I think it's why it is important for us both to try Android things, to have a look at Linux now and then, even see what's going on with Windows, although I don't think Microsoft are any better. I reinstalled Windows 11 recently, and oh my god, the advertising you have to go through to get to the end of that is just egregious.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that statement.
So there we go, a fairly glum end to this part, but at least the Mac's been good.
The Mac, for me, the Mac and the iPad have been stellar this year, and the iPhone is just such a mature product now that it just feels very, very stagnant.
One thing we haven't talked about is Apple Intelligence, and I think that's been problematic for the company to sell the phones and the Macs and everything on this feature that really doesn't add very much.
I would concur with that, and they're forcing people to turn it on while it's still in beta. I think I'm looking forward to next week's hopeful release of a beta release of 18.4, which is meant to bring more stuff to play with. But I must confess, other than the new Siri animation, which I really like, I've not used really any Apple Intelligence features.
So as an experiment for myself, I turned it off this week. And other than Siri going back to the old thing, I see no difference at all.
Yeah, I think it's been really underwhelming, sadly, which is a shame, and they shouldn't have pinned all the iPhone sales on it. I think the way they advertised it was messy, and they should have waited until, I don't know, maybe iOS 19 to really push it, but I guess their shareholders need them to do it.
The worst thing is it's not an impactful feature. Like I say, switching it off, what have I lost? I've lost some text modification tools that I didn't use. I've lost some Genmoji that I didn't send to anybody. And I've lost an image creation thing that I used once.
Yeah, I just deleted that app off my iPhone.
It's just not good enough, is it?
No, agreed. Sadly, because it felt the Siri area felt where they needed to do the most work, and they just haven't.
There we go. And that's the Apple report card. Obviously, I think we're in line pretty much with the way that everybody else has done this. I wouldn't have rated iPad so high. You would have. I'd have rated Mac a bit higher. You might not have. Other than that, I think we're there.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think it is a stellar year for the iPad. The hardware got the love it needed because it had none the previous year. So it got the love it needed, and they are the best screens on any device they've ever made. It's fantastic.
So dropping new products leads to better scores. Shocker.
Yeah. But their hardware, though, all the hardware, I think what we're saying, to summarise, the hardware is generally across the board in a fantastic place. If you go and buy any Apple device released last year, it's a great bit of hardware.
Imagine they let you do what they wanted with the software on that hardware. Install Linux on it, put Android on it, install Mac OS on your iPad. Imagine the scores they'd have then. Because the developers would be able to release whatever the hell they wanted to.
I think that's the thing. The software just still isn't where it needs to be.
Deliberately so. Shall we do an app of the week?
Do it.
So I finally get to talk about Tapestry, which is from the Icon Factory. It's their read anything anywhere type app. I've been using it in beta. I funded the Kickstarter. They obviously went away and thought after the death of Twitter and all the apps that were like Reddit that were messing around with their APIs, and they made an everything app effectively. Not an everything app in the sense of you're going to pay for it and get your taxi and plan your shopping on there, but you can subscribe to most social media feeds if it has an RSS or it has a JSON output or something like that. You can subscribe to that feed within there. It keeps your place within a timeline. It's seamless between the Mac and the iPad and the phone. So I've made this my reader of choice. I've stopped using Reader as recommended by you, and I now use Tapestry. I've got a couple of YouTube channels in there. I've got a couple of forums that I follow for my car on there, and I've just got a seamless overall view of my news. And it works really well. I'm very impressed with Reader, with Tapestry.
I do love Reader. You're going to have to prize it out of my hands because it's an app I launch a couple of times a day, just check in, see if anything's updated. I can see the appeal of this though. You do a way more social stuff than I do. I'm not a big social media person, as I think has been widely talked about. But I can see the appeal of this, and I do love the Icon Factory, so I'm a little tempted to give it a go.
I think you should check it out. You've nothing to hurt by doing it. And if nothing else, it brought an unread count back to my list of things, which I know you like for some reason on Reader, but I couldn't live without it. I need to see how much stuff I've got upcoming.
I don't like badges. I turn off all the badges.
It's not a badge. It's when you open the app up and you can see in the top right. You're on this. You're wrong. I'm just saying it. You're wrong. It's a really nice app. It's well designed. It's been interesting watching the process of bringing it forward. It is weird when you see companies that have issues with their feeds, though. So The Verge, for example, has an issue with its feed where apostrophes aren't rendering properly, and it's not just in this app. Reader was seeing it as well. So you've got these companies pushing it back, which I quite like.
Yeah. Well, hopefully The Verge will fix their problems. That would be good.
Well, as viewers of this podcast might be aware, they've got lots of problems with Verge. We can't even look at half their stories. I'm almost at the point of removing them from my feeds because it annoys me so much whenever I go there.
Yeah, they do seem more aggressive for you than me, I think. I'm not getting as many pop-ups, but I don't know why, for signing up.
I think it's because I've got an ad blocker across my network too. It probably doesn't help because they can't serve me the ads they want to show.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's it.
Just a thought. Have you got a thing of the week?
I've got a thing of the week. I'm going to go a bit low-tech this week. I just wanted to recommend an author's person I don't know, but has written a series of books that I've just started reading. It's a gentleman called Simon Mason, and I've just read A Killing in November, which is a book a bit like Imagine Morse, but set in the 2020s is what they're kind of going for. But it's all set in Oxford, which isn't a million miles from where I live. And I read the book really quickly. It was about 400 pages, and I ploughed through it in days because it was just really well written, very short chapters, and a book with a short chapter, I don't know if you find this, but often I'll just read one more, and then you end up, I'll just read one more. But just really well written, fast paced, and I'm just starting the second book now because I enjoyed the first book so much. But just thought I'd recommend something a bit different.
Fair enough. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. He's also on Blue Sky, and he's at g5maniac at bsky.social. I'm on Mastodon. I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. Or you can watch on YouTube by going to the website and click on the YouTube link, or drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.